We'll see. Everybody keeps saying they want to see my ugly face. Nobody wants to see my ugly face. All right, let's get going here. All right, welcome to Evidence-Based Audio Engineering and Education. This is number 143, and this episode is FenDAW. All right, and that ain't just a Hobra in Hawaii saying Fender. That is FenDAW. All right. Oh, first of all, like I was saying last week, I got a little bit interrupted, right? I'd love to just do an r/ thing. Like, you ever see the r/ guy on YouTube, and he just reads r/. He just reads the Reddit on, probably like choosing beggars, stuff like that. There's audio ones, but the questions aren't dumb enough, so it's not all that fun. But it really is educational to read the newbie section at at some of these places. Like one of them is homerecording.com. And one thing that I could do is just read tech support questions. And I don't just mean stuff to us at AIX DSP, but I handle tech support officially and unofficially for a lot of different stuff. And some of the questions you get, they're pretty funny, but you'd feel bad if you read them out. So the r/ one would be better for me, I think. But I'm going to go over to homerecording.com, and it'll be educational, and hopefully it won't be too painful. And if you haven't ever been to homerecording.com, it's one of the better managed forums. It's been around for a long time, and if you're not a member, I'd join up. No matter what, if you're new, pro, whatever. Let's just take a look. There's some stuff they ask over there, which is very much like what we get asked over here a lot. How much difference will upgrading an audio interface make? Okay. So I'm going to go to... Question is in the title. I currently have an M Audio Fast Track, thinking of getting a Scarlett 4i4 or Axe-IO. Would this upgrade make much of a difference? First response here. I'm a skeptic. Until you move to interfaces that deliberately change the audio passing through, my opinion is that any differences may be revealed with serious testing and measurement, but I cannot hear any difference between the various interfaces and mixers I own. The noise performance on low output microphones is important, however, and I can detect better performance on some of mine, but given a decent input signal, they're all as near to identical as I would fail a blind test. Others have a very different opinion, and they're equally convinced X is better than Y and are amazed I cannot hear it. Some will even slag off certain popular units. In all the years we've discussed this, we've had people posting their mixes for others to comment on. I've never heard one where anyone has said it's great, but you need a better interface ever. And this guy says a lot of pretty important stuff. So this is Rob Ilestone, well-known member. There's another thing, though. One of the things that we talk about a lot is drivers. The M Audio Fast Track is probably going to have some of the original USB drivers, which actually weren't that bad. But they're not RME drivers. If you want substantially better performance, that's going to be on your drivers. Noise is important. I'm not really convinced that the super higher end ones are that less noisy than the cheaper ones. I think, remember we did the test. They're still up there on the pages where we actually tested all this gear. I think on pipelineaudio.net, real gear measurements. The high end Midas M32 compared to the Behringer X32, it was different. Like the noise, I think there was like a 6 decibels noise, signal to noise difference. But in general, these things, they sound so good. I mean, it's fast track. When he says fast track, he's talking something pretty old, and there were some pretty bad. They weren't very flat frequency responses on some of the early fast tracks. But I like what this Rob guy had to say, because in general, any decent interface, they're going to sound the same. And we have done these tests. And when you do ABX tests, the golden ear Visconti alleged pros, they can't tell the difference between anything either. So Oh, this is a weird angle. Yeah, I don't kill yourself buying a more expensive preamp. But this is an example of why I like this forum. You know, you will get pretty reasonable answers. And then this other guy says, go over to Sweetwater interface comparison, and that you can listen to him. He says, so it's Talisman Rich. I would skip the voice and acoustic guitars and go to the piano and electric guitar samples, since his performances are essentially identical. The voice and acoustic are the same person doing the performance, but that brings along tiny variations you might think are from the interface, but are due to slight changes from the performer. I've heard minimal differences using the downloaded files. Certainly using the air button on the Scarlett made a difference, but that's an EQ bump. It should do that, right? Somebody else, Track Rat, says, only in function, not so much in sound. Different mics and to a lesser degree preamps will have a bigger impact. Preamps is not going to have a bigger impact. Rob, you know, being honest, because so another thing is that being honest in this business about something like this is actually dangerous. If you admit the truth that you can't hear the difference between two identical things, there are a million forum rats, gear shills, Viscontiers, golden ears, pretensioneers, all these people who are going to say, oh, you couldn't hear a difference? You must be deaf. Boy, don't anybody go to his studio. That guy can't hear nothing. He's deaf. So, pretty cool that what this guy Rob says. Being very honest, if these are indeed the interfaces described, then as Trackrat says, if the ins, outs, formats, and gadgets that matter, because I'd happily record with any of them. None stood out as good, bad, or anything, and on the piano, for example, with exactly the same source material, I could not tell the difference at all. So, this is the kind of reasonable stuff. And then, of course, you're going to get Mr. Roosh. So here comes the contrary opinion here. It does make a difference. Sound quality can most definitely be increased at the audio interface. However, there would need to be a significant jump in the quality of the AD/DA conversion and or the mic preamps before you would likely notice an audible difference. Nope, not with the mic preamps, and definitely not with the AD/DA when these guys are pretty much running the same circuits right here. The higher the signal-to-noise ratio, the better, yes. I went from an old USB Focusrite audio interface to an Apogee Duet for my mobile setup and definitely noticed. I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. Didn't we test that one and it turned out flat compared to the Focusrite? Hee. In many cases, you might not notice a difference in source recordings. However, it becomes more apparent as you start processing these sounds and amplifying the noise as you add plug-in effects. So this guy's pushing what we used to call the stacking myth, right? But no, okay, so here's Keith Rogers. Well, you've left out the critical who, what, where, when, why, how parts, as in all the pieces that go in front of the little holes in the interface where the electronic signal enters. Are you in a great recording space, recording a good vocalist with a good mic, or plugging an electric guitar in directly, etc.? What are you doing with the interface? In general, the interface is the very, very last thing you need to worry about these days, especially in a home recording environment. The likelihood that you have an environmental noise floor low enough that a current modern interface properly gain stage with good quality inputs recording in 24 bits would introduce more noise than you're going to pick up in the room or from your electric guitar is verging on myth, in my humble opinion. All right, that's important. Okay, so what this guy is saying is, your room noise, your environmental noise, the noise going on around you. You can hear people carrying stuff around out in the street, even though I'm behind a whole bunch of doors in here. The idea that you're going to have that low of a signal-to-noise ratio where if you're in a super quiet environment, but even then, the modern mic preamps are so good that you're pretty not going to have the noise. Somebody else posted a $7,000 versus $3,300 audio interface shootout. Just think what nice mics and sound treatment you could buy with that $6,700. That would make way more difference. Yep. So, this is the kind of questions they ask there, which is the kind of questions you get all the time. But at homerecording.com, you guys think this might be a commercial for them. It's not. I've just been on there for a very long time. At homerecording.com, you will get a bunch of good answers. Here's far view. Okay, so they're talking about latency, so this is good. Let me, okay. So, Shawning Time said, I have another question for you guys. It seems like sound quality is not so much of an issue with an interface, but how about latency? Would a more expensive unit reduce latency, or is the bottleneck my CPU? I'm using the ASIO drivers. Thanks. Okay, so here's a really good question, because remember, there's lots of different things that cause latency. Let's go to the PreSonus. They had a thing where they show digital latency explained. Okay, so we're going to go through this in a second. But let me get to where Farview answers. So Farview is a popular dude. He's in a lot of the forums, I think. He's always around. Good guy to listen to. He says the computer and the plugins you are using cause the latency. If you are mostly doing time-based effects, delay, reverb, chorus, etc., then you can use the zero latency feature on the interface for the dry signal and set the plugins to 100% wet in the DAW and mix the taste. If you're using things like EQ and compression, there is no way around the latency they cause. Okay, so let's look at what PreSonus says when you're talking about latency, and hopefully, okay, so what's causing the delay? So they show a picture. They show a guitar, then the analog to digital converters, the transport input buffer, the ASIO core audio input buffer, ASIO core audio output buffer, transport output buffer, digital to analog converters, and then your speakers. So first of all, so let's talk about this. On the way in, you got your analog to digital converter, so that's converter delay. That's not caused by the interface necessarily, and it can't be fixed by the interface necessarily. But it takes some time to convert from analog to digital, from digital to analog. Okay. Your converters are maybe in your interface, and for most people out there, you're going to have to talk about 2-channel, 4-channel interface or whatever. It's everything. It's the interface, it's the converters, it's the mic preamps. It's all in that same thing. Okay, so in that case, the different converters may have a different converter latency, so the interface would make a difference. Transport input buffer. I'm not all that sure exactly how they're describing this, so let's just ditch that for now. This isn't quite complete. Let me see. Let me see if somebody has a better chart. Okay, so we're missing something here, and that's the DAW itself. What plugins you're using and stuff like that. So when Farview is talking, he's saying the computer and the plugins make the latency. That's true, but we still have some other latencies here. We have the ASIO input buffer, or core audio input buffer, or the MME, WDM, whatever. But don't use that crap. Use core audio or ASIO or whatever if you're on Mac. These are where it makes the critical difference. Your RME USB buffers can be way the hell better than most anything else if you're using USBs. That's your input buffer. So on Reaper, that's be the first. If you're looking at the thing on the top right that says like 44 kilohertz, 24-bit wave, 32 channels, 128 samples, 2.7, 3.7. In that case, the 2.7 is the input buffer size, and the 3.7 is the output buffer size. And often there will be a hidden safety buffer. In this case, it looks like there's a millisecond worth, right? That's going to add to your latency, your round trip delay anyway. And this is absolutely your drivers. This is where your drivers matter, is your buffers. This is where it makes the biggest difference in the world. So most every USB thing is going to be with the Vesicon or the Sycon.de drivers. They make pretty much everybody's drivers, except for the RME ones, when you're talking USB. But for other formats, PCIe or Thunderbolt or whatever they're doing now, maybe somebody else's drivers are better. I've heard of really good drivers even from PreSonus. Jim Roseberry is talking about the PreSonus Quantum. I think it's Thunderbolt, and it's got some super fast like RME speed drivers, maybe even faster. And then there's the converter output delay. So what Farview was talking about was something that's missing from this chart, and that's the DAW. So you might have latent plugins that actually take time to process. Look ahead plugins will be latent. A lot of plugins are latent. We at our company, we make zero latency plugins for the most part, but if you engage the look ahead or whatever, you are going to add some latency and you're going to need plugin delay compensation or whatever. So that part isn't handled by the interface. However, if you go to DAW Bench and you look at the low latency performance database, you will notice that you can run more plugins at lower latencies on better drivers than on worse drivers. And that's going to be up to your interface. So Farview's right that the computer and the plugins are causing some of the latency, but not the latency. The latency would imply all the latency. It's not. The computer and plugins are causing some of the latency. If you didn't run any plugins at all, you'd still have round trip latency. You'd still have the converter latency. You'd have the input buffer. You'd have any processing that your DAW is doing besides plugins. If it takes time, it doesn't necessarily have to. It could be like, for instance, when we do our live shows, we use the DAW as an effects processor, and there's no latency except for the round trip latency, of course. The DAW could be adding latency for some reason or another, I think. But yeah, and I don't recommend using the onboard zero latency mixers on these things. I just run through the plugin. But anyway, that's the kind of questions you got over here. This is really neat that Rob says this, and we say this a lot on this show. It's funny how the ADAT light pipe carried on long after the machines died to death. We still use ADAT for so many different things, and it's amazing because that format died sometime in the 90s, maybe by 2000, or at least the machines. But here we are 20 years later, 30 years later, in the case of the original ADAT, using this format for most of our interfaces. So this is just read any thread that interests you, and it'll probably take you down some rabbit holes where you learn a lot. Audio interface comparison charts. This is nice when people actually do this. So this guy, Broken H, I'm going to remind me, Broken H, I'm going to send you all of our plugins because it looks like you did something crazy like I do. Yeah, he made himself brand, model, mic pre, spec, analog ins. He made himself a real good chart. This is really cool. Anyway. This is what you get when you go over to homerecording.com. You get a lot of good stuff, so go check it out. So, I really want to just read off stupid tech support questions, but it's just cathartic going here, and you read these noobs, and instead of just being angry, dumb people yelling at noobs and telling them to go Google stuff, these guys are answering them and giving them some pretty good answers. This one's... Oh, boy. Okay, so if this doesn't get attacked... nothing will. Hi, I'm new here. I'm currently studying for my Associates of Science in Music Production at LA Film School. Okay, so first of all, you know how mad people get about degrees in music. I'm mostly focused on hip-hop, R&B music. Oh, there you go. So now all the jokes about what's the best mic for rap vocal under $99 and what's the best compressor for rap vocals, all that stuff. But definitely open to any genre blending and bending since I listen to a wide range of music in my daily life. If anyone has any tips or tricks, they'd be greatly appreciated. And so this guy answers, was there an assignment from LA Film School that guided you to the site? There's so many newbies from the LA Film School recently. And she said, yes, lol. Essentially, we had to join a forum that was industry specific to learn how to network and such. It's a digital literacy class. Wow. I tell you, Megan, you couldn't have picked a better forum. You lucked out, and I just need to answer that. You couldn't have picked a better forum. Imagine if she had signed up at Safe Space instead. Okay. All right. So what else do we have today? Okay. So I keep getting these messages on YouTube in my inbox. This guy, channel called Digital Split, keeps putting out all these like famous songs, but minus, like here's Bryan Adams, It's Only Love, instrumental. Or they'll just have one guitar, Cliff Burton's part on Orion, Cliff Burton's part on Ride the Lightning. So they've somehow chopped up. Allegedly, these aren't from the original multi-tracks. So allegedly, he's somehow chopping up finished songs and pulling the parts out of it. Like I say, we're on a time-limited industry. Eventually, people are going to be able to think their songs, and we're not going to have a recording industry anymore. But this is some pretty incredible stuff. So, and I played along with some of this stuff, like the stuff without the guitar part, and pretty incredible. So,
have you ever wanted
there's
to
other
isolate
stuff.
your favorite vocalist?
RipX Deep Remix Review, source separation software. It's the same kind of thing. Over at Learn Audio Engineering, he had a review of this stuff, this RipX thing, and it's the same kind of thing. This is pretty incredible, that this technology. I'd go check it out, but go over to Learn Audio Engineering's channel and check out RipX Deep Remix Review. And I don't know that it's just if it's the same type of thing, but this Digital Split one is pretty intense. Go check it out. He also reviews something called Muse, and let me show you what this is. It's another collaboration software thing, another sort of an online DAW, and it looks familiar because of the name, because how many different things are called Muse. So I'm not sure if they have any relation with the other people who have this name Muse that make software and such, but it seems like I don't know if somebody could check this out. I'm getting a lot of errors clicking around their page, but it's over at Learn Audio Engineering. He talks about it. You guys know about, of course, we're just talking about latency, right? So you guys know about the other problems we have with collaboration softwares. You know, it's the round trip latency, it's the internet latency. It's sending people high quality stuff later on to mix or whatever. But I really support this kind of stuff. So if you get a chance, go check it out and see if you can't run it and get it going. All right. Here's from the Reaper forum. And this is from a thing I posted years ago, 2018. God, it seems like so long ago. It really wasn't, right? Oh, it sucks. JBM saying he's tried some of this stuff, this splitter stuff, and he says it sucks. But the Digital Split one, see, that's why I'm wondering. I wonder if that guy's really running. Yeah, Muse Score. So is Muse Score related to this Muse, this Muse software that they're using to collaborate? I wonder if it's the same people. It may not be. But I mean, wasn't this it? They had like they had the red circle with the Muse, the white Muse written in it. Yeah, let's check it out because that'd be cool. But anyway, so in 2018, I had asked, I just got my first Waves plugins after decades of avoiding them like the peg. Installs and runs fine, but it puts like 4 billion versions of the same plugin in, including mono and surround and 32-bit versions. I found a thread here that showed how to take the 32-bit ones out, but how do I hide the rest from Reaper? I just want the main stereo ones. This isn't just for Waves, though. There's a couple ways to only show certain plugins inside Reaper. But this thing from Blade Runner, check it out. He says, if you just want one stereo entry of each Waves plugin in your effects browser, copy and paste the following in the above-mentioned box in Preferences. So this is in Options, Preferences, Plugins, and then down at the bottom it says only show effects matching filter string, and then you can type in this filter string. And so Blade Runner is saying capital not space parentheses mono space capital not parentheses 5.0, And then he does that same thing for 5.1, 7.1, live, and quad. Leave out the not live part if you want like the low latency versions of various plugins. That is super handy. I just got rid of all those extra ugly piles of crap that Wave puts in there. But it's not just them. There's other companies that do the mono stereo thing, especially if they have to run for Logic. In fact, I think we might actually do that. So you can get rid of the, like for me, I want to just get rid of the VST versions of our stuff and only show the VST3. Not sure if you can do it with this trick, but this is a pretty handy trick. So, again, this is Blade Runner, and he's telling you how to get rid of the ugly chunks in when Waves installs all that crap. Okay, so here we go. The FenDAW. Here's the news. Drum roll, please. I'm going to take a drink. Everybody take a breath. From guitar.com, so who knows the accuracy of this, but Fender acquires pro audio company PreSonus. PreSonus, known for its audio interfaces, Studio One DAW, and wide range of studio equipment. Fender bought PreSonus. Yamaha bought Roland, didn't it? Yeah, Yamaha had those. Was it Yamaha that owned? Yamaha had Steinberg for a while. We had that really good Yamaha Steinberg interfaces. Now, who knows? Will this be the FenDAW? Now, when Fender they bought some people out. And I remember when they got that Scottsdale office, all of a sudden, we started seeing some DSP. Yamaha owns Line 6 now. That's true, I think. But they had Steinberg for a while. When Yamaha, Roland, holy crap, Fender. When Fender moved their offices to Arizona, they ended up with some DSP guys that were really good. They didn't have anything to do with Fender. I don't know if they were from Digitech or from that. I forget which company these guys were from, but immediately they put out actual harmonizers. And this was like 10 years ago when the Mustangs came out. They put out a pile of good DSP. They had a lot of problems. I'm going to say implementation-wise, quality of life, user-wise, not so good. Like you really couldn't get a really loud, clean sound, for instance, but you should have been able to. They had impulses, sort of. Like they had different speaker modeling. Speaker modeling would have gone a lot better, I think, with the full-range flat response, with tweeters and everything. But the Mustangs did pretty good. The DSP was great. I would have taken plugins by these DSP guys. I would have happily used VST plugins that these guys made. They were really good. So there's a chance that this could be a really good thing. Who knows what they would do to Studio One? Gibson killed Cakewalk, right? I mean, of course, it's back now. But I wonder what Fender will do, because when Fender got these DSP guys, they did put out some DSP stuff, which was good. Gibson did horrible when they owned digital audio companies. All right. Fender may or may not do better. I hope they do better. Please, Fender, do better. But when the Mustangs, at least the older ones, I've got some of them, have audio interface sort of on board, but you have to use ASIO for all. So I'm hoping these guys do way better. I mean, Fender, you're strong enough, you're a big enough company, you could buy some good drivers. That would be so cool to see, Fender. Please. Okay. After that, bluelab-plugs.com. For some reason, everything just went free. There's a free bundle in there. You just grab the whole entire thing. I don't know if the company went out of business or he's given up or whatever, but there's some pretty cool looking plugins here and they're free. So again, that's bluelab-plugs with an S.com. Hey, Jerry. So yeah, there's some really spectrogram plugins, Haas effect plugins, denoisers, spectrogram visualization stuff, impulse stuff. There's some really cool plugins here. He might have gone out of business, so yeah, I don't know. Go check them out. Also, I see since JBM's here, he's already done. But Iconic Reverb, we've got signed versions out. So if you want to try in Pro Tools or whatever, it's still a ton to go, but we may just release it as this. If you want to try Iconic Reverb, get a hold of me. It'll be up on the site soon enough, but get a hold of me. I'd rather talk to you about it. And I'd rather hear from you how it's working. Okay, so you guys in Hawaii or on Oahu, Bike Factory Ride Out is tonight. I got to go get everything ready. It's 2:00 already. I'm getting a little bit crunched for time. So I'm out of here. I'll see you guys next week. And later. Okay, so signing out. TikTok guys, I'll see you later. See you. Instagram. Yeah, Iconic is kick ass. Thank you. I'll see you guys later, Instagram. Yes, I want to end my live video.